Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I bring us the making of a shoulder dart bustier with a peplum top, a 360 peplum top. So here on the pattern paper I have my lines. I have the shoulder line, the chest line, the bust point, the underbust, the half length, and my half-inch seam allowance to join the upper bodies to the lower bodies, which is the peplum. Alright, so you want to take these measurements accurately on your client or whoever you're making the dress for. Now on the shoulder line, I'm going to mark half of the shoulder measurement. My shoulder is 16 divided by 2 is 8, so I'm marking 8 inches there on the shoulder line. Now on the chest line, on the bust point, I'm going to mark half of my bust span measurement. Now the bust span is the nipple to nipple measurement, or the distance from one nipple to the other. So I'll mark that on the bust point, on the underbust, and on the half length. Okay, so I'll go over the lines again: shoulder, chest line, bust point, underbust, half length, and seam allowance to join to the lower part. Okay, so on the shoulder, you mark half of the shoulder. On the bust point, to mark the bust span line, mark it on the underbust and on the half length, then connect to a straight line. Okay, then connect from the bust point to where we marked half of the shoulder measurement. Okay, so it's going to give you this shape, but at the bust point area you're going to come in with a curve and blend in the line. Okay, just so that it doesn't give you a very sharp edge around the bust point, because it's the region around the bust, so you want to avoid any sharp edges. Okay, so after that you'd want to take in your underbust dart. Okay, I've prepared a size chart for the underbust dart, and I have it in my previous tutorials, but I also dropped the chart in the description box. Okay, so there's no space to drop it on the screen, so I'll drop it on the description box. Please check it out to know the appropriate dart to take for the size of the bust you're working with. So for bust 44, which is my bust size, I marked 2.5. I marked on the underbust and on the half length, so I'll connect it to a straight line. Okay, so I said for bust 44, the underbust dart is 2.5. So to get a very slopey curve for the bustier, I'm going to mark half of what I have on the underbust. Okay, then go up by 1 inch. Okay, so the underbust that is 2.5. I'll mark half of that, then at that point I'll go up by 1 inch. That would help me slope or curve the cup properly. Okay, so I'll just connect from that 1 inch I went up by. I'll connect it to the 2.5 inches I marked. My hand blocked that, so then from that half inch I also connect to the bust point. Okay, so it will give you a cup, that cup shape. Okay, so you can now come in and blend it properly. Okay, I always say this is the region around the bust, so you want to make sure that you blend very properly. Okay, so after that, on the shoulder line, I'm going to take a dart of 2 inches. Now the trick here is whatever you mark as the underbust dart, just take out half inch from it. So I marked 2.5 inches at the underbust dart, so I'm marking 2 inches at the shoulder line. So I would connect to the bust point, but not on a very straight line. Okay, I'll just curve in to slope it so that the bustier curve will cup very well. Okay, so you get a protruding cup that will take care of the bust, that the bust will be placed properly inside the cup with or without a bra. So I'm just going to make gentle strokes from the shoulder line, then curve it to meet the bust point, so it will cup like so. That's seeing me. So you're not going to mark a straight line, when you just do a straight line from the bust point to the shoulder line. No, I'll just make it a bit curvy so that it will give me a very slopey effect that would give me a beautiful cup. So I marked 2 inches at the shoulder level, 2.5 at the bust, on the bust, and on the half length. Okay, so now that is aside, you're going to start imputing your body measurement. So on the chest line, I'm marking 1/4 of the bust measurement. That is the bust divided by 4. All right, so the next thing I'll do is to measure the dart intake around the chest line. Okay, so I would be replacing that dart because we'll be cutting out the dart, so you need to replace it so that you don't have a shortage. Now I want to add 2 inches seam allowance, but I'll add an extra 1 inch because after cutting out the dart, I'll be needing 1 inch to sew that. All right, so you, after marking the dart intake, you just add 3 inches allowance. Now the half length, I'm marking quarter of the waist measurement plus the 2.5 inches dart intake plus 3 inches seam allowance. 2 inches is the normal seam allowance plus 1 inch to join the dart together after cutting it out. So I would connect to the chest line. Okay, now afterwards, you can determine the type of neckline you want. You could make a sweetheart, a round neck, a U-shaped, a V-neck, depending on what you want. But for my neckline, I want to do a bit of a sweetheart neckline. Now, for you to draft the armhole, okay, you're going to take your curve ruler and make a mark. Okay, just covering your armhole. Okay, so we want to mark where we have the bust measurement exactly. So I'll retake the measurement. The bust divided by 4 is 11. The bust is 44 divided by 4 is 11 plus 1 inch to join the dart, plus 1 inch dart intake. Okay, that is the 1 inch dart intake there, plus 3 inches. So this is where the 3 inches falls. Okay, so when you take a measurement, try to retake them so that you don't have errors. Or, well, even with this, I would leave it as this because it's better to have an excess than to have a shortage. So also you take the measurement on the half length just to be sure that we are working on the accurate measurements. I always do this whenever I'm making my dresses or whatever I'm making. Okay, so this is just going to be how it should be. By the time you cut out the dart, everything would come in better. But I'll just use the normal line I marked, okay, so that I'll have an excess. I can always cut it out. Then from where we mark the shoulder dart, okay, you shape your armhole. Okay, now this becomes the armhole. All right, now for my neck width, I'm marking 4 inches. Then I want to make a sweetheart neckline. Okay, so from that 4 inches, I'm going to mark 3.5. Okay, where I marked that 4 inches, I'm going to mark 3.5. Okay, just like make a box. I want to make a straight line that would form the sweetheart neckline. Okay, so just initially I wanted to make a box, but now from the shoulder line I would come down by 6.5. okay, this is how deep I want the sweetheart neckline to be. So from that 3.5 inches we came down by, would curve into the 6.5 to give us a sweetheart neckline. Now I don't want this straight effect on the neckline, so I'll come in with my curve ruler and make sure that the neckline is curved. Okay, that straight one is a little bit out of vogue now. It's no longer in vogue. All right, so afterwards I'll take in my shoulder slope or the shoulder slant. You can take it on the shoulder line where you marked half of the shoulder measurement, or on the other line, so whichever one is fine. Okay, so then I'll go up and mark 1/2 inch to join the shoulders together after sewing. So I'll just mark 1/2 inch across the shoulder. Okay, so this would be the joining allowance for the shoulder. All right, and this is it. Okay, so but when you're done, you can always try to retake or reshape after sewing. Okay, you're going to cut out the darts. So if you're not comfortable with the armhole like this, you can start remeasuring these things to be sure. All right, so the shoulder is 8 inches. That's half of the shoulder measurement is 8 inches. So this is 8 inches here. You measure the dart here. I have around 1.25, so you mark 1.25 plus 3 inches. Okay, 1 inch to join the dart and 3 inches. Okay, so you can always reshape your armhole. But I like to reshape the armhole when I'm done sewing, joining the two panels together. All right, so I'll repeat what I just did. 8 inches, which is the shoulder measurement, plus the dart that I have there, plus 3 inches. Okay, so you can just do this and reshape your armhole. Okay, but I'll be going with the first line that I made. By the time I'm done sewing, you fold your fabric together and reshape your armhole. Okay, so I'll be going with this line. Okay, I just did this to show us that you could actually do this instead of this. All right, so we'll cut out. Alright, so if you are watching till this point and you are not yet subscribed, like guys, please subscribe, join the family, join the community, like this video, share, turn on your notification bell, subscribe, and please try to watch the ads that come along this video. Please, they're really helpful to me. Alright, so this is how you cut out your darts. And voila, you're done with the cutting process. So we'll go ahead and cut the back and show us what it looks like. Alright, before we cut the back, I want to I've transferred the pattern to my fabric, and I want to show us the little adjustments I made. Okay, so from the chest line on the center front, from the chest line, I'll start adding half-inch allowance. Okay, this will be used to join the shoulder. Okay, to join the dart along the shoulder. Now to the side front, from the chest line as well, I started adding half-inch upwards. Okay, so this will be used as allowance to join the shoulder. Okay, so you can see I've transferred the pattern to the fabric. All right, so you can decide to add this allowance while you're cutting. Just means that when you're cutting, you give you come in by a half-inch towards the center front and also add half-inch towards the side front. Okay, I forgot to show us that on the pattern, but this is it on the fabric, and I hope you understand what I meant by coming in by half-inch towards the center front and the same for the side front to give you the allowance you need to join the two sides, okay, along the shoulder. Okay, what are the allowances to the other parts? Now to the back, I've marked out the green line. I don't like the green line showing. Then I've marked 1.5 inches for my zip allowance. Okay, so the back is very easy. You don't need to start taking measurements. Just get the two front pieces, as the side front and the center front. Place the center front on the side front to cover the dart. So to cover that cup, okay, that bustier cup, because the back is not going to have a cup. All right, so you just place the hem of the end of the front pattern on where you marked your grain line. Okay, you need to make sure that you mark out where the length of the top stops, okay, which I've marked. Okay, so you just place and make sure that it properly aligns. Okay, then place the center front on the side front, making sure to cover the cup and that the lines, all the horizontal, all the vertical lines, they all match. Okay, you can see. So make sure you place it accordingly. You can actually pin this so that it doesn't move around, but I'm placing a heavy weight on it. All right, so then you can now chalk to know where the initial shoulder line is. Remember, I added half-inch to the upper part to join the neckline, to join the shoulder. So I've marked that half-inch and also marked my initial shoulder line. Now, so from that initial shoulder line, that is where I will start marking the neckline for the back. Now for the back neckline, I am doing 2 inches depth. Okay, so 2 inches depth, then I'll curve from the front part to make the back neckline. You could do 1, you could do 1.5, depending on your preference. Okay, so I'm still checking to be sure that this aligns properly. You want to make sure that you get this right. Okay, so you can now cut. Okay, so just follow the shape and cut properly. All right, okay, so if you're worried about the dart allowance, okay, because there's going to be a dart at the back, remember that when we are drafting the front pattern, we gave 1 inch to join the dart after cutting out. Okay, so it means from that half-inch, that 1 inch that sewing allowance, okay, would now be the 1 inch dart on the back. I hope you understand that. So I'll notch my zip allowance up and down. Okay, remember what I said, the back has to have a dart. Okay, so don't worry about adding a dart to the back, because the dart sewing allowance added to the front would now cover up for the dart allowance on the back. Now I'll take out the center piece, then mark where the center front ended, so that would become my dart point for the back. Okay, or you can just mark your bust span line from the zip allowance, just mark your bust span line, and that takes care of the dart. Now on the back, we'd want to eliminate back bulge or zip bulge. I'll go up by 1.5. okay, from the half length I'll go up from 1.5 along the zipper area, then connect it on the slanted line to meet the sides of this pattern or this fabric. Okay, then I'll cut it out. Then also highlight my dart line. Okay, that's what I've just done. So I would cut it out, so that by the time you cut out, you can also go back and notch the dart point, so that when you're sewing, you find it very easy to sew your dart. All right, now that we are done with that, we're going back to the front pattern, and I want to show us how to pad the bustier. Now what I have here on my table is called wadding. Okay, this is wadding, and this is the thickness. Is about it's actually a very thick wadding. I can't begin to describe the thickness. Okay, so there are different thickness, there are different types of wadding with different with how different they are in the thickness. Right, so this is another one. This is a lighter one. You can see how light this one is. This one is called gum wadding. Okay, then this is another one. Is a thicker one. There's the foamy breast part. There are lots of wadding or things you can use for the breast pad. Okay, and this is what I have here. It's called wadding in the Nigerian market. It's called wadding. Okay, so you can just ask them anything you can use for breast pad, and whatever suits you can be used. Now for the center front, I'll just place the center front pattern on the wadding. Okay, initially I folded the wadding into two, so then the cup, the breast part, starts from the underbust. So you can see that I just placed my pattern from the underbust. Okay, so that point right there is the underbust. You can measure it to be sure. Use your pattern to place, and make sure that right there you have the underbust. Okay, because we're not doing a full padding. Full paddings are no longer in vogue. So now for this, I'm marking the underbust and the chest line, and that is as far as I would pad. Okay, so you can also want to get your pad up to where you have to half inch below your neckline, just because you don't want the pad to get in the neckline. It's going to make it very strong and difficult to sew. So I'm just stopping my own pad on the chest line. I'm starting my pad at the chest line and stopping at the under bust. Okay, so I would cut it out. Make sure you trace exactly the shape you have on the center front. Okay, so this takes care of the middle padding. Okay, the center front. All right, so come along and also pad the sides. All right, so you need your pattern or your fabric that is already cut out to be able to cut your pads. You don't just cut the breast pad before cutting the dress. All right, so I'm trying to find a good part to place my cup. All right, so I fold into two again, then place the side front on it. Remember to start from the half length. Okay, you're just from the on the bust, sorry, we're just padding the bust area. We're no longer doing full padding. It is no longer in vogue. All right, so placing from the under bust, making sure that it's on the under bust. So I'll start tracing the shape of my bustier, of the bustier cup that we made. We just start tracing that cup. Now for this, you don't need to start at the bust point or on the chest line. Just take it a little bit upwards. Okay, like 2 or 3 inches away from the chest line. Okay, so remember to mark your under bust length. Okay, so that's the under bust length there. I'll place it again to be sure. Okay, so that's my under bust length, and I would curve out following the shape of the bustier cup that we've drafted. All right, so you can see the shape of the cup now. So from there, I would mark 5 to 6 inches. I'm making use of 5 inches. You could do 5, 6 inches. Okay, so from where I stopped curving, I would curve it like this. I hope you can see what I'm doing. Okay, just make a D shape, like I'm making a D. Okay, like letter D. So what I'll do is to mark where the lower part is, and also mark where we have the bust cup. Okay, because after shaping this, you might not even know where the upper part is, where the lower part is, where the bust cup is. So, you know, it looks alike. So when you cut out, make sure that you mark to indicate that this is where goes to where. All right, so another thing I do is to use my scissors to give it a notch. All right, so now I'm also transferring that thing to the other side. Okay, that mark I made on the lower part on where we have the cup, I've marked the cup side and now the lower part. All right, so like I was saying, another thing I do is use my scissors to make a notch. Okay, so I'll just make a little notch on the lower part. Okay, you can see if I open it up, this is what it looks like. Then also make another little notch on the cup area. Okay, so that when I'm attaching the cup to the fabric, I will know which part goes to it, because by the time you mess it up and turn it upside down, you might not really get the effect that this cup is supposed to give, like the padding is supposed to give. The padding is supposed to make it firm around the bust area, that the person does not even need to wear a bra. All right, so if you don't place it accordingly, okay, now that I have my fabric, I'm placing it. Okay, this is helping me to place it on my fabric without having any issues. All right, so what you do is to place it on your fabric and iron it. Okay, now some of this wording don't have that adhesive at the back that you can use your iron to, you know, infuse it on the fabric. You can now just go and run a stitch on it. Another thing I like to do is to use my uhu gum. Just gum the sides, okay, and place it on it. It will gum. Then I'll take it directly to my machine and sew, instead of sewing on the fabric and on the pad, then join the pieces together again. All right, so I just place a little bit of uhu gum just on the sides and gum them. This is just another sewing tip. This now I will do that when I want to join. This is just sewing tip. This is what I did. I'm telling you so that when you're doing yours, you don't find it difficult. All right, so for you to place the center front pad, just come up by 3.5. That's where my half length to underbust length is, or you can use the pattern to place it to know where your underbust is. Okay, so when you mark that, you can now place the breast pad on it. Okay, then use your iron to gum. Okay, but my padding is not that type that you can use your iron to gum, so I use my uhu gum to just gum the sides. Okay, then I'll go and sew. Okay, I hope you found this helpful. All right, so this is it. Then by the time you also get to the other part, okay, you sew it together. Sew with 1/2 inch from the lower part to the upper part. All right, so now we want to cut the lower part, which is the peplum. Now for us to derive the radius for the peplum, you're going to get the waist measurement. Now the waist I'm working with is 42, then plus zip allowance, okay, of 1.5 inches, okay, on both sides. So 1.5 on both sides gives us 3 inches. So I'll be adding that 3 inches to 42, which is the waist measurement, and that gives us 45. So 45 is the circumference I'll be working with. Now, so to get the radius, we divide 45 with 6.28, and that gives us 7.1. I would approximate that to 7 inches. All right, so we've gotten the radius. 7 inches is now the radius. Now for us to get the length for the peplum, you get the blouse length minus the half length. Now the blouse length is 27 minus 18, which is the half length, gives us 9. Then plus 1 inch, okay, that's 1/2 inch we're adding 1 inch to the 9 inches. Okay, so 7 plus 9 plus 1. Now the 1 is 1/2 inch to join to the peplum to the half length, then 1/2 inch to turn the lower part with your lining. Okay, so that's the extra 1 inch. So 7 plus 9 plus 1 gives us 17. Now because we're going to be folding into 2, multiply that 17 by 2. You're also be folding into 2. So 17 times 2 gives us 34. So along the length of your fabric, you'll be marking 34 inches, and along the width of your fabric, you'll be marking 34 inches. Now I like to add extra 1 inch or 1.5 to it, so that is not when you fold, and even if you have a shortage, okay, you would always that extra allowance would augment. So for me, I'll be marking 36 as actually 1 yard on the length and on the width. I need the extra allowance. I always leave it because you don't know when you would need it. Now I've already cut out the 36. This is just 1 yard, okay, with the 45 length that the fabric always comes in. So but I will make the adjustment and cut off what I don't need. Now folded into 2. Remember I said for a peplum you fold into 4. So the first fold is going to be along the width of the fabric, so you fold into 2 like so, okay. So fold it to 2 and make sure that all the edges are aligning. Then I like to trim off the green line. I don't like it showing the markings on the fabric. I don't like it showing on any outfit I'm making. It makes your work look tacky and unprofessional. All right, so you fold into 2. If you have your iron around you, your pressing iron, you can actually use it to flatten out the curves, the edges. All right, so now from that point, I've already trimmed off the green line. I would now mark the length of the fabric I'm cutting. Remember from the calculation we did, I have for 34, but I like to make 36 so that I will pay for any allowances that might come out if your fabric is not folded equally. So I'll come in with my pressing iron and fold. Okay, remember that my fabric is folded into 2, so I'll use my pressing iron to iron it out to make sure that the fabric is not rumpled at any point, and that can actually give you false readings, okay, when the fabric folds at a point. So I fold into another 2, okay. Remember the first fold was along the width of the fabric, and the second fold is along the length of the fabric, okay. So we folded into 4, still using my iron to flatten out all the edges to make sure that what we have is workable enough. All right, so I'll get it out now. All right, so you will start marking now. The radius we have, okay, from all the divisions we did is 7 inches. So I'll just mark from the top of the fabric. I'll just mark 7 inches, okay. Remember from the calculation we did, we have 7.1 and I approximated it to 7 inches. So from the top of the fabric, I'll mark 7 inches. Still placing my tape on the top of the fabric, I'll just go round, okay, 7 inches all the way round, okay, all the way down. Then you connect it in a curve. Now the next thing would be the length. Now for us to know where to mark, you see all these places that are open, okay, this place is open, the lower part is open. The only part that is folded, that has a full fold, is the part that will face you, okay, the part that doesn't have any opening. This side is open, this side is open, the lower part is opened. The only part that doesn't have any opening in face, you don't want to mark it on all these edges. You wouldn't come out with a nice peplum, okay. So the upper part where we have 2 folds, the other parts are open. The upper part is where we have 2 folds, okay. Then the part that would face you is where it doesn't have any opening at all. Please get this right so that you don't ruin your fabric. Now we'll start marking the length of the peplum, and we have 10. Remember we got 9 from subtracting the half length from the blouse length. Now plus extra 1 inch, that's half inch for the upper part and the lower part, and that is 10. So we're marking 10 inches all the way round, okay. Just from the radius that we've marked, we'll now mark 10 inches all the way round, okay. So from that radius, make sure it's 10 inches you're marking all round like so. All right, all the way around. All right, so we'll connect all the curves and we'll cut out. Now in my next video, I'll be showing us how to attach your crinoline or your horsehair to your peplum to achieve a curly peplum. Now the peplum we've drafted now is a 360-degree peplum, okay, and I'll be showing us how to attach crinoline to it in other videos. Future videos coming out, I will show us to cut 720-degree 1040, 1440. So this is the peplum and what it looks like. Okay, so remember we have 1.5 inches zip allowance, so I'll just mark the 1.5 inches on the top and on the bottom. All right, then open up the side, one side, just one side. Okay, I'll notch the zip allowance, then open out one side. Then I'll go to my ironing table and iron my fusible interfacing. You can use your gum stay or collar stay. Okay, strong stay, just so that your peplum will stand. Okay, the stay is for the peplum to stand, the gum stay or any interfacing is for the peplum to stand. Now the crinoline is for the peplum to be wavy. Okay, so these are two different things. If you want your peplum to stand, just use interfacing, gum stay or collar stay. Then if you want it to be curly or wavy, you use crinoline or horsehair. So this is crinoline, also called horsehair braid. Okay, it's crinoline, people call it crinoline, or it's also horsehair braid. Okay, so I'll be showing us to attach it in the next video.